second for it to start actually broadcasting. Oh, I get the... So also in the corner, I've got what's called the monkey butt cam. You can't see it on your end, but right now I've got a little bed here next to me that the dog and cat sleep on. So right now it's focused on the cat.
So, Monkey Butt's still alive?
Oh yeah, she's down here. She's sleeping next on the floor, all upset that she doesn't have her bed. All right. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to Houston. We have a problem. I got a special guest today. Ron Erickson, the chairman and CEO of KnowLabs, is going to talk to us about tech, stock shorting, you name it. We're going to try and cover everything. And I'm sure we're going to touch on the news of the day, which is Silicon Valley Bank imploding, getting seized by FDIC. Here's the interesting fact before I click the intro. If you had invested $1,000 into $220 puts on Wednesday for Silicon Valley Bank, by Thursday afternoon, you would have made $11.8 million. So that is 180,000% gains in one trading day. Yeah, that's ridiculous. And if they had allowed trading today, it would have been even more. It probably would have been close to 2,000,000% gains in 2 days. But yeah, so all right, here we go. Here's our intro. A few seconds of that. Okay. And the thing is, I always forget to turn off the intro, but I remember to turn it off. And that way, if I change screens, it doesn't pop back up again. All right. Welcome, Ron. So disclaimers off the bat. Ron and I have known each other for years. I'm friends with his daughter who just had a baby this week, little Owen.
Yes.
I've toured KnowLabs with him. He's explained the tech to me, and I've signed an NDA, so I'm not allowed to explain the tech. But if Ron wants to reveal anything, it's his thing. But I had originally planned right before COVID of doing a PhD through South Queensland University in Australia, utilizing the tech for identifying minerals. But then COVID hit and it ruined everything. So I didn't do that program. But last week, someone called White Diamond Research, right? White Diamond Capital, White Diamond Research, released a sort of a hit piece on KnowLabs. And the stock price just plummeted. And it was an obvious short attack. A lot of half-truths and misdirections were in the research. So I thought I'd bring Ron on. And we can discuss sort of his background, the background of KnowLabs, the tech behind it, where it can go, and whatever else we have to touch on today. So Ron, welcome.
Yeah. Houston, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it's great to see you. I had to tell people that I think the last time I saw you was in the ferry parking lot in Seattle on our way to Bainbridge Island, where we both live. And I pulled in behind Houston. Houston was in a Corvette, and I was in a Corvette. So that says something about us. And I got out and said, "My God, Houston, it's you. What are you doing here?" So we both we both are gearheads.
Yeah, Ron's a big time classic car racer. Races a 58 Corvette.
57 fuel injected, 57 fuel, and then I've got a couple of vintage 911s I race too.
Yeah.
So I've been fortunate to be able to scratch that car itch. And
I buy junkers that explode on me constantly. So yeah, that's
one of the things I know, Houston, is sometimes they don't explode. Sometimes you have had some mishaps when you've been out and about.
Yes, I do roll them also. Yes.
Yes, I know. I'm aware of that. I've seen photographic evidence.
Yes. All right. So let's get to the nitty gritty. KnowLabs, its main thing that's researching and working on is a non-invasive glucose monitor, right? Yeah, and there's a few companies out there that have announced that they're also working on these things. But you've got some particular proprietary tech, and you've already done your first round of human trials, right?
Well, I'd say we don't. This is not like a therapeutic where you do various rounds. We're doing continuing testing.
Okay.
Continuing testing. We don't refer to rounds, but continuing testing as we work on refining our algorithms, refining our our various analytics. So what we have, and Houston and I have talked about this at some length historically, is we've developed sensor technology utilizing radio frequency spectroscopy. And what we do is we send energy into the body, modest amounts of energy, and it's been tested, so it's non-harmful levels. It's less than your cell phone. We send energy, and then we from a sending antenna, and then we receive the energy back. And there's a delta between the sent and received energy, and we know the frequency we're sending it at. And that allows us to identify the presence of analytes in the human body, and that not just the presence, but the amount. And sort of thinking about this in really kind of basic terms, every analyte in the human body, every molecule has unique frequency at which it will resonate or excite. And so it's a platform technology, this radio frequency driven sensor technology of ours. And we literally have a list of about 100 analytes that over time we hope to be able to identify in the human body. But our first focus is on glucose. And when you have a platform technology, a platform, it has certain strengths, but it has certain weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses is you have so many choices. What do you go for first if you've got a platform? Where are you going to focus your attention? But you've got a multiplicity of opportunities. In our case, as we started to think about what to do with this platform technology, clearly blood glucose is significant. People are saying that the onset of adult diabetes is pandemic in the world. There are about 500 people that suffer from diabetes in the world, and then there's maybe 2.5 to 3 times that many pre-diabetics. So you've got a big addressable market. Everybody in business likes big addressable markets. And then I think really fundamentally, I hate to even use the term, but there's a pain point. If 15 million people in America are pricking their finger every day, and they're doing that an average of 3 times, 4 times, and every finger stick costs $1, you get them in bags of 100, it's a big deal. I mean, you're looking at $45 to $60 million a day a finger stick. And, so big pain point. There are a lot of people that, especially a pre-diabetic, they don't want to prick their finger, or they're not going to get insurance for a Dexcom or an AbbLabs Freestyle Libre. So we see a non-invasive solution, an inexpensive, relatively speaking, inexpensive solution that can give quality information about your blood glucose levels. We think is going to make a big difference for people, not just people with diabetes, but people with pre-diabetes. And that's sort of step one. That's the first focus. But then over time, following on behind that, we want to be identifying additional analytes. We have publicly indicated that we've successfully done blood alcohol as compared to a state-of-the-art breathalyzer. We've publicly indicated that we've done blood oxygen levels. And that's very fascinating to me, and I'll explain that more in a minute. And blood oxygen levels that are comparable to hospital quality pulse oximeters. So, and then we've also had people in our lab take Tylenol or aspirin, and we can see when it hits the bloodstream and what its half-life looks like. And so those are, those are proxies for other therapeutics. You could know if your grandmother was taking her meds, for example, or whatever the case may be. So we're really excited about what we're doing. And I think the driver, for me, I really feel this, compulsion to make a difference. That's really what we're working hard to make a difference, because we think this, as we come to market, post FDA clearance, we're going to be able to make a significant difference in people's lives.
If you've got, tens of millions of Americans alone, not just counting people around the world, that no longer got to prick their fingers anymore. The finger strip business is going to be like the wagon wheel makers. They're just going to fade away. That's our hope. And then as we identify these other analytes. I mentioned oxygen, and I said that was intriguing to me. What's intriguing to me about that is there were hearings last November when the FDA had around blood oxygen pulse oximeters.
And this is something that arose in the COVID context. People began to develop an awareness that photonic-based pulse oximetry had some issues in terms of accuracy when there were high levels of melanin, dark skin.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's logical, right? That, if you've got something that's photonic based, it might have some issues with penetration.
Yep.
And I'll just say that radio frequency has none of those issues, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say it's like your garage door opener doesn't care if there's a garage door between you and the opener, right? I mean, and so similarly, radio frequency is not inhibited by melanin levels. And it turns out that in the COVID context, there were people with high levels of melanin that had their diagnostics delayed because they were getting inexact readings. And that's what the FDA hearings in November 1 addressed.
So basically they got worse care as a result.
They got worse care. Yeah. And so I think that that's just another application of our platform technology, right? And all of this, by the way, supported by now in excess of 100 patents pending and issued. We give a lot of care to the patent portfolio, and that ends up being a really increasingly valuable asset of ours. So excellent. Yeah, we're excited. I mean, I can just say,
I watched
fun.
the video on your first series of tests you were doing, and it looked like people there's a sensor in their armrests, and they would put their arms on the armrests, and it would measure, and then they would prick their fingers and calibrate the system. Right? That's kind of what you're doing.
Well, we were not using the finger stick. We were comparing the results out of the sensors under your arms. Mm-hmm. They're comparing those results to the results from the finger stick.
Okay, yeah.
Not calibration.
Okay,
okay. We were comparing, and then those same individuals doing testing may be wearing a Dexcom on their stomach, a Dexcom G6, or they may be wearing an Abbott Labs Freestyle.
And those are the pumps, right?
No.
Those
these are devices. By the way, Dexcom G6 from Dexcom and Abbott Labs Freestyle Libre from Abbott Labs. These are what both companies call minimally invasive continuous glucose monitors. Minimally invasive. So they have to be replaced every 10 days to 2 weeks. They have a needle that goes and an adhesive that attaches to your body, and a needle that goes into the interstitial fluid. I say minimally invasive because it's a needle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's still like poking a hole in your body. Yeah.
Right. But it's all about marketing. Yeah. They don't call it a needle. Houston, it's called a filament.
Okay. All right.
A filament doesn't. A filament doesn't sound nearly as invasive. But so at any rate, so people are testing in our lab. They will. They might have one of those as well. So they might be doing finger stick, and they'd wear a Dexcom.
Yeah.
Because we're testing against standards in the industry.
Yeah. So like ultimately, your device would be sort of, I guess, like a bracelet. Or kind of like a Fitbit type thing, or did you put it into other people's tech? Or
yes, and yes.
Okay.
Right? So I think that so if you've got a sensor technology and you take care of miniaturization, I think it's a kind of technology that could it's form factor agnostic, right? Okay. So it could find its way into all kinds of devices.
Okay.
Right. And one of those could be something that was a wearable.
Yeah.
When we were doing SpO2, interesting, we were testing oxygen. We did tests and we put our device 11 different places on a person's body, on one of the testers' bodies, and we got accurate results every place.
Yeah.
And really, the point of that, I would joke and I'd say, well, this could be in your tennis shoe, all right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that a wearable is for somebody that needs continuous information. And then, we can also have a device. One of the devices we've been talking about is for what I'd call more episodic use. So the person who's pricking their finger 3 or 4 times a day doesn't necessarily need to wear something, but they want to be able to test non-invasive.
So they just go boop and check themselves.
But yes, you got it. Check themselves. And that is something that could, have in their purse or their pocket or whatever, and
Yeah.
give them the same kind of, give them access to information. It would connect via Bluetooth to a smartphone device, and have an app, and
Yeah.
they'd have the information without having to prick their finger, and sort of on the go. It'd be on the go. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. No. So we're making great progress. Very excited about it, and we've got. The big things we're working on this year, and we've announced all this, is working on validation, third-party validation. That's key.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things, there's always a lot of cynicism around people doing something like this. A lot of people have tried non-invasive blood glucose monitoring, and they failed. There have been people that call this the holy grail. I mean, if you're able to do this, it's a very big deal. So I think there's a lot of cynicism. We deal with that. In the lab, I mean, in our bunker, we know it works. We see it work, right? And so one of the things we work on this year is working on third-party validation, so that the third parties who are trusted, can validate it. And then working on, I mentioned form factor agnostic, but when you go to the FDA clearance, it has to take a form.
Yeah.
And it has to take the form that you're going to take to market. And so it's got to look exactly like, it's got to work like the thing that's going to take to market.
Yeah.
So we work on that. Every day we're using the sensor. The sensor's fully baked, but it's not yet in that pretty form factor you go to market. And so, we got these various things we're working on this year, and we'll be making announcements over the course of the year that are evidence of serious progress. So we're excited about it.
Do you have like a nebulous timeline as to when you can hope to have FDA go?
No. And the reason for that, let me tell you one of the things. I mean, I think we're all sort of, I've been chastened by COVID, post-COVID supply chain.
Yeah.
Right. And whenever you're dealing with third parties, I mean, I think that really sort of what's the bottom line? I mean, I could say, geez, the things that we can control, and I try to really work hard on managing expectations. We can control, we try to stay on time with the things that we can control. But if I'm dealing with third parties, it's really difficult. And then you throw in that mix, we had COVID out of left field, but then, sort of associated supply chain things. And I had an interesting conversation with a serious manufacturer, Singapore-based, who said they've really been having a difficult time with chips.
Yeah.
And what happened, I mean, I think we all live in this, I mean, you and I car guys, the automobile manufacturers were really delayed because they couldn't get chips.
They couldn't semiconductors. Yeah, none of them were coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So what this business colleague of mine out of Singapore said to me within the last couple of weeks, he said, all the big chip guys, they're just making chips for the automobile manufacturers now. In other words, if I want to do a small, it's just so, what is it? The law of unintended consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? And until the U.S. ramps up its own chip production, which is what the infrastructure bill had in it, the Biden made this, I don't know what to call it. It's not a tariff embargo, but he said, if you're an American working in the semiconductor industry in China, you're going to lose your citizenship. And so everybody who had green cards, citizenship, whatever, they all left China. And China now, their production of semiconductors has just plummeted because they don't have the people who know how to use the machines there anymore. And it was those American-trained scientists and engineers who are operating these really intensive, specific billion-dollar machines that stamp out these semiconductors. So yeah. So
I mean that. So as we begin to, well, I'll just say in terms of the productizing, getting to that form factor, and as you can imagine, inside a device, it's got a lot of pieces, parts, and it's got a battery, and it's got this, and it's got that. That as you go out to the supply chain, you sometimes have to say, well, golly, so that one, there are some chips now that are a year out, Houston.
Yep.
A year out, right?
Yeah.
Now, not for that just happens because we've been, we go out and we know people and we're talking to people. That is, uh, those that are year out, we don't need those, but I know people that do need them and are saying, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I'm a year out.
I'm supposed to release this particular Apple Watch or whatever, and
whatever the thing is. But so and that it's there's not much you can do about that.
Yeah, you're kind of just at the mercy of that global supply chain, and you just kind of throw up your hands and twiddle your thumbs. And
I think it's I mean, Houston, we went through a point here, and it was pretty crazy. You probably saw it, and I saw it too. I think at one point, didn't we have like 22 cargo ships in the bay out here in Seattle?
Oh yeah. Everyone on the south end of the island was complaining because their entire beach was just full of diesel fumes, and because they're just sitting out there waiting.
And the generators going 24/7 out there. It was, et cetera. But I think we've kind of moved beyond that now a bit. But anyway, third parties. We can't. I can control my timelines. I can't control these external timelines. I've just gotten past it. I'll just say we're in a hurry.
Yeah,
we're in a hurry to. We're moving as fast as we can.
Yeah, and there's quite a few companies that have announced that they have their own versions that they're working on. Famously, Apple announced that they're going to try and incorporate one.
Well, right? But I'm going to call that was old news.
Yeah.
Right. That was old news. And I think that announcement, it was published in Bloomberg, I think. Yeah. I think that announcement, I think there was another motive there. They had another motive. You and I have both read Sun Tzu and the Art of War.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think there was something else strategically going on with that announcement, because I think they're a long ways away. They were spending a lot of time and energy with a company called Rockley over the last 2 or 3 years, and Rockley was using photonics. They were using Raman spectroscopy, and we think you get under the covers with an Apple thing. I think they've got issues, and I think it's going to take quite a bit of time. So I think that announcement had some strategic import about which I don't know, but because I think there's no there right now. I think it's way out.
Okay.
It's way out in the future. I mean,
it's like Elon announcing that he's going to make driverless cars by 2018, and now he's facing probably recalls across the entire spectrum for his cars that keep crashing when there's no one driving.
Yeah, but sometimes you can make an announcement like that as a blocking move, right? Yeah. It can be a blocking. Well, we're going to be there, so you better not put any energy there because we're going to beat you and we're bigger.
Yeah.
Right. So, I don't know. That's my sense of it.
All right. Well, let's talk about the white diamond thing. So you guys your stock price got hit really hard when that came out. A lot of people looked at it, and I'll give my little theory first, which is
sure.
I think this guy had shorted your company ahead of time, months, maybe years earlier, realized that it's not going to be a play that he can make anything on. So he released this report, which was just sort of like a bastardized Wikipedia article, and tried to drop the price so he could get out. And that's my thought, is that he can get down to like 80 cents, and he's like, I'm out. And because trying to hold long term, I don't think would work out. But that's my opinion.
Well, this is a subject about which, Houston, I work hard to be very judicious about.
Yeah.
Right? So I work hard to be very judicious about all of this. We put out a press release after the white diamond research report surfaced, and we basically called it out for what we thought it was, which is a report from somebody who was hoping to profit by shorting our stock. and uh, we didn't want to grace the report or honor it, if you will, by responding point by point to a combination of lies, half truths, and innuendos.
Yep.
And so we didn't, and we haven't, and we won't. The only thing I'd say, there's something kind of, one of the, it's interesting. The one thing that's quite apparent from the author of the report is he didn't do any serious due diligence. As you said, it was kind of a breezy, half-baked Wikipedia. But we have filed in our K's and Q's and in our press releases significant body of material, information, I'd call it evidence, which refutes essentially everything he's said, right? But I don't like to, I'm not interested in any kind of tit for tat and going through that. The one thing is kind of curious. I mean, I thought it was kind of humorous, his remark that we didn't have any MDs on staff. And the only thing I'd say is I've been in the tech business for 40 years, software, hardware, building stuff, doing stuff, having ideas and bringing things to market. And, I wouldn't gather together a group of MDs to be technologists necessarily. I mean, it's like, now, obviously, as we go to market, we're going to have a lot of MDs involved in clinical testing. And we do have a chief medical officer who is an endocrinologist who was the man responsible for global clinical trials for diabetes therapeutics at Lilly for a dozen years. And he is personally responsible for $3 billion diabetes therapeutics. So that's not chopped liver. Right? And his name's Andy Anderson. Andy is kind of our senior father figure in a way. He's been around the block. And when I first met Andy, and people have heard me tell this story, he said, "What are you doing?" And we had a mutual acquaintance. And he said, "Well, we're in Seattle, and we have developed sensor technology that allows us to non-invasively ascertain blood glucose levels." And he said, "Oh, golly, at Lilly, I've seen 50 of those and none of them work." So I said, "Hey, well, Dr. Anderson, how would you like to fly to Seattle and spend a day in our lab?" And, because his life's work as an endocrinologist is around this whole area of diabetes. And so he was intrigued. He flew to Seattle. He spent a day in the lab. He saw our sensor then working. It was much bigger. It was more like a bread box. It was big. We hadn't done the miniaturization stuff. And he saw it working. He saw the raw results as compared at that point with somebody, they were wearing a Dexcom, and he saw the raw results and the comparison to Dexcom. And he said, yeah, you're doing it. I see it. It's working. And then he said, "What can I do to help?" And I said, "Well, how would you like to guide us, advise us as we make our way through the lab, ultimately out into the world, third-party validation, go to the FDA?" And he said, I'd love to. So he's been he's our chief medical officer and actively engaged and involved. So he's an MD. And with a credible man who had created $3 billion annual rev diabetes therapeutics at Lilly, and there you have it. So, any rate, I see, and I have to always assume that somebody that writes one of these short reports is going to listen to your podcast. Of course, he's going to listen to your podcast, and so everybody's got to do what they do to make a nickel, right? And what I would say is, hey, why don't you fly to Seattle, sign an NDA? Proof's in the pudding. We're here every day. We're an open book. There are any number of people who have come to Seattle and seen it. I'm happy to show it to you. I'm happy to have people sit and be tested in the chair, right? but the because I want to, I'm all about visibility and transparency, kind of within, the obligatory thing we have to do as a public company is we have to be careful about disclosure and, inside information. And
Yeah.
that's why I say NDA and whatever and all the rest. But no, the, I don't begrudge a guy taking a thwack at us to make a buck. But uh, we don't, it doesn't cause us to miss our stride. We keep working it every day, and we know what we're doing. We know what we have. And
it seems like from reports you got plenty of capital to keep doing your R&D, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, no, we're all good there. And I've been doing, as you know, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur, and so yeah, we know how to do it.
So let's dive about that. So you're a lawyer by training.
Yeah.
Right. And so how'd you first get into sort of the tech entrepreneurship investment game as a lawyer?
Oh boy. Well, so let's kind of back up.
Okay.
I'm a Washington State native, and I was living in Issaquah, and I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I had a garden, and I was raising zucchini squash, and I take my zucchini in my wagon, and I take it down on Front Street in Issaquah, if you know Issaquah on Front Street. I take it down to Issaquah to Front Street to Tony and Johnny's Market, and I sell him my zucchini. And I went in one day, and I had more zucchini, and Tony said, well, he took me back in the vegetable area there at produce section, and he said, well, I didn't sell any of your zucchini this week. And I said, well, that's why you need to buy my fresh zucchini. So I think I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. And I think I've always been kind of, I've always been pretty early into things. It's sort of an early, I like being early.
Yeah.
And so, I got involved in the microcomputer industry really early. I had a software distribution company called Cybersoft, not a bad name, in 1979.
Yeah.
And then in 81, co-founded a database software company called MicroRim. It had a relational database, RBase, and that was pre-PC. The database built by my brother, who's co-founder with me, the database was built on a Heathkit CPM machine, if you can believe it, right? And we ended up growing that up to number 2 market share in the world.
Yep.
And a relational database that adhered to all the laws of relationality of Dr. E.F. Codd, the architect, if you will, of relationality, and then got involved in. I was one of the original investors in a company called Egghead Discount Software.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
And we grew that up to be 210 stores in America in the 80s.
Yep. I got my first, can't remember, it was my hard drive or my first video card I bought from them when I built my first PC. But yeah.
Well, you know what? A lot of people maybe listening on this broadcast to yours, Houston, don't remember, didn't experience the time when you would get a computer and had no software on it.
Yep.
Right. And so you had to go someplace and get your software. And there were software stores. There was Egghead, there was Software Etc., there was CompUSA. There was a lot of stores selling both hardware and software. And so we had 210 stores, largest seller of software in the country. And we were just, because there was a point where there was choice. You had a choice between, let's say, a half dozen or more word processing packages or.
Yeah, you had Corel, you had Word, you had
Word.
Word
we
Perfect,
had Word Perfect, WordStar, Word Perfect, etc. This was all pre-Word.
Yeah,
but then of course, what I like to say is that Microsoft won the software wars, and everything came preloaded, and Egghead, of course, went away. I'd spent a couple of years as senior exec there when we, we're really rocking and rolling it, and but then I've gone on to found and co-found any number of other companies, and I'm a founder here at KnowLabs, and I've been working on this really pretty assiduously now for well over a decade, and got the bit in my teeth and excited about this, and I love the process. I really love the the entrepreneurial process of bringing a concept to reality, kind of gathering people together around a concept, not just your employees, but all your stakeholders and investors and all the rest. And I in my view, it's like an art form. I call it in many respects sophisticated adult play. The idea that you could imagine doing something and then build something that can make a difference in the world. I've also, always takes the same energy to do a big deal as a little deal. So, you might as well imagine something big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, I love it. I love what I do every day, and I love the whole process of entrepreneurship and building a team and making a difference.
Yeah. So KnowLabs, before KnowLabs became KnowLabs, you were Vigilant.
Yeah, we're Vigilant. Well, let me tell you what happened there. When we first started out, sort of the evolution of it. What happened, the very beginnings. I had this idea that really started around a conversation about the vanity of human perception, right?
Okay.
And by that, I mean, you and I have 3 color receptors, red, blue, and green, right? And we look out the window and we see what we see. A shrimp has 17 color receptors.
Yep.
A bumblebee has 32 color receptors. In other words, there's more out there to be seen than we can see.
Yeah.
And we started, talking about that, and this is at a point when we're beginning to see off-the-shelf LEDs available, relatively inexpensive, and so we put together a product and some technology that we called Chrome ID, and in one of its ultimate form factors, it was like a mag light. It's like this. This is it, and this has 12 LEDs in it, and we had an earlier version that had 32 LEDs. So these emanate light in the infrared, ultraviolet, and in the humanly visible portion of the spectrum. And we would use this to identify, authenticate, and diagnose based on the capacity to identify things that were humanly visible but outside the spectrum.
Yeah.
And one of the things we do is kind of fun. I call it a parlor trick. I would have a half dozen vodkas, and I'd take the scanner, and I could tell which one was Kettle One, which one was Smirnoff, which one was Stoli. It was kind of interesting because people would say, well, is that a big deal? Counterfeit spirits. I said, well, that's really not the point. It might be more important to know if the morphine had been diluted in an IV drip.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it might be more important to know if there was water and aviation jet fuel.
Yeah.
Right. So it could do a lot of things. We could identify the presence of E. coli on meat, for example. A lot of very interesting applications. But there again is a platform technology. And so the thing, as I said earlier, you sort of, in a way, you're bedeviled by a platform. So we needed to make a product. And about that time, I said, we got to have a product. I met Phil Boshua, who was with us for 4 years, very inventive. And I said, Phil, do you have some time? I'd like to have you spend some time with me. Let's try to figure out a product. And we'd always kind of dreamt about glucose. And there were some areas that we played with, could you use light and get glucose in the viscous part of your eye, or maybe on some of the translucence part of your earlobe or some other areas. And so we, had always kind of dreamt about that. And so Phil started working with me and we're in the lab and using LEDs, we discovered glucose. But with LEDs, it's kind of imperfect. It's a little bit about what I was talking about SpO2 and oxygen, because you got issues to deal with. And so we're thinking about, well, look at the way, sort of physics works. If we can find glucose with LEDs at 1650 nanometers, if we go further out on the electromagnetic spectrum, will we be able to find them? Because it's really, every time you change a frequency with an LED, you need a new LED, right? And you gotta, and they cost money, and it's just sort of complex. But if you're using radio frequency and going further out in the spectrum, you just turn the dial.
Yeah.
You just tune it. So we got some gear and we found glucose here, and then we just went out and started tuning it. Son of a gun, we were hitting glucose.
Yeah.
So this is what we were doing here was foundational. We then leveraged on top of that to move further out the spectrum and do all the things that we can do with radio frequency spectroscopy, and then first focus, of course, as I explained earlier, glucose. So that's kind of the, how it all evolved. And a very natural, I mean, it's sort of, as it was a natural evolutionary cycle. And here we are today.
Yeah. So, all right. Someone just wrote, can you describe the current team you've assembled? Jess English and Steve Kent are rock stars. This is from Jimbo Slice.
Yeah. Steve Kent came on as chief product officer, and Steve has brought along some other. Steve came from Aura, and Aura is a sleep ring company.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
And then Steve has brought along three other people, encouraged three other people from Aura to come on board. Connor, Nicole, and Jess, and they're just great additions. They're a part of the team, and then in addition, we've got several other really strong members of the team. Leo Troutwine. Leo came to us, among other things that Leo's done. He was at Rivian, and then Pete Conley. Pete's a 30-year investment banker, been in capital markets. He's done a great job. And he also is SVP intellectual property. And he's been really guiding us as we build that strong IP portfolio. So really I just couldn't be more pleased. Now I want to add, because in this, it used to be when you build a business, Houston, that you build a big team, right? You did it yourself. But in this day and age, you can bring on outside resources, on a contract basis to work on a project. So we have really extraordinary external partners. Our design, the people working on the form factor, the design is a group out of the Bay Area called Bold Design. Bold is really extraordinary. They've done work for Google and a lot of others. Mm-hmm. They're really fantastic. We've got a third-party machine learning group. They've been in town three of their members have been in town the last 2 days. I met with them yesterday. It's called Edge Impulse. Edge Impulse, they've got a fabulous global team of people working on ML and AI and algorithms. So they're taking our raw data, working on our algorithms. They're fantastic. We've got a Seattle-based group working on, if you will, kind of the guts inside that thing that Bold Design is designing. It's called Igor, and they've done work for a whole host of brand name people working on products. So we've got a really extraordinary team of both internal, external people expert in testing, people expert in terms of working with the scientific community on validation, working with our data, working on publications, doing all the things you need to do as you amass your resources to go to the FDA. So, yeah.
All right. So when did the name change from Vigilant to KnowLabs, and how did that come about? Because you're no longer working with the visual spectrum?
Well, yeah. So, that's exactly right. Here we were working with light, and we're working with it. If you think about it, we were using light, and it was all about there was authentication and diagnostics and identification, and so there was a visual aspect to it, and it was really a combination of visual and vigilant, right? And as we started to move away from photonics, move into radio frequency spectroscopy, and I sort of expand the reach of the sensor technology, then we started thinking, we're gathering a lot of data. We're going to get to know a lot about what's going on in our bodies. And I just sort of as we expanded the reach of what we were doing, it just naturally evolved.
Okay. Let's go to more questions from folks here. Jimbo Slice also asks, how close are you to having a working prototype?
As I said earlier, I don't want to talk about timelines.
Okay. All right.
But wait, we're working on having a working prototype. Okay. How's that?
All right. I guess, supply chain and all that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
Lucky you live Hawaii. Would you consider releasing a device as a wellness device without FDA approval? Example, Apple Watch, Fitbit type. And would you consider licensing your technology to Apple as a wellness device?
I think what I'd say about there's a certain rigor involved in a medical device. There's rigor involved in a medical device. And I have a tendency to call wellness devices wellness gadgets. All right. And so I want us to aim for that high bar
Yeah.
that is medical device, right? I want to aim for that high bar.
Yeah.
I think you get more respect in the market. You get a more, you get better valuations in the market. And we have a vision for the company that really has us do much, much more in the medical diagnostic realm, because over time, got a list of about 100 analytes we think over time we could identify. We think over time with a core group of analytes, we can do medical diagnostics that are really predictive, that we could say, looks, Houston, like you're trending towards something,
Yeah.
right? And so we think there's just a lot to be done in that area, and we want to keep aiming for that high bar.
Yeah.
So that's really my answer.
Okay. All right. Let me see.
Now, that's not to say that biohackers could get a hold of what we have, and it's got all kinds of wellness attributes to it. But
yeah.
Now we're focused on med device.
Okay. Let's see here. Note Milkman. I refer to him as the most threatening name on the internet. My younger brother is diabetic, and he's excited for a non-invasive glucose monitor because he hates using Dexcom because it hurts. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense to me. Why would you want to carry something plugged into your body around all over the place? And
yeah, well, I think, and one of the things that we learn about people that have diabetes, I mean, we can talk about the pain point about finger stick or sticking the needle, but there's more than that. They have to always be on the clock. They've always got to be paying attention, and I think that something that's non-invasive really is going to be, make aspects of their lives much easier.
Yeah, because I picture, you're constantly thinking like, oh, what are my blood sugar levels right now? Should I check now? Do I wait? Do I have to have a cookie? Do I have whatever? But if you just have this thing, it can, even if it's like a wearable, if it's something that continuously monitors, then it can be like, bloop, bloop, hey, time to take a shot. Rather than like guessing. The guesswork is kind of removed from there, which I think reduces stress, I think, in the end.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just touch on like the VC world. So Silicon Valley Bank,
SVB, I know,
just imploded, got seized by FDIC.
Yeah, no, that was really, and that happened very, very fast
in one day.
Yeah, well, I assume that there was a combination of things. They had some assets on their balance sheet that had been deteriorating over time, and they had some, one assumes that they had on their, some debt instruments that, began because of their client base began to have some questionable attributes. And so, I mean, but I was surprised with the speed with which the wheels fell off. And then, there's some other things going on in that whole space now. You're seeing some limited partners wanting to see capital returned.
Yep.
That capital that they've deployed to VC funds. And I mean, I think we went through some very heady days, and SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, went through some very heady days. And if you kind of look at some of the valuations, I mean, all the unicorns and the crazy valuations, and they're really not, they weren't grounded on anything that was sustainable, and they bore little relationship to excuse me, that people things that had long-term value.
Yeah.
And so um, was this bound to happen? It's nothing like a retrospectoscope. It
Yeah.
bound to happen. I mean, it's interesting. I'm a huge fan of Charlie Munger's. know, and you and I were talking earlier about leverage and
Yeah.
the leverage that's been available in the marketplace to certain people, and yeah, no, it's there's no substitute for fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
No
So
substitute.
how, as someone who's been in this VC space and been an angel investor and all that stuff, how do you see the collapse of this bank sort of affecting future venture capital?
Well, in the ecosystem in which they exist, there are people that are going to have to lick their wounds a little bit,
Yeah.
right? But here's the thing: I think that it will continue. I mean, we're a very entrepreneurial society.
Yeah.
You talk about the people say there's a liquidity crisis, when in fact, kind of the globe is awash in capital. The globe is awash in capital. One of the issues is there are just not a lot of good homes for capital, right? People are risk averse, but there's a lot of capital out there. So I think quality deals will always get funded. Quality deals will always get funded. You're going to have valuations maybe that are not as stratospheric as they once were, but deals will get funded. And but I think that there were a lot of these folks flew a little too close to the sun, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got a really blue chip firm like Sequoia putting $100 million into a Bahamian crypto deal with no due diligence.
Yeah.
Zero. I mean, what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah.
I mean, they deserve these guys need to get their hat handed to them. What are they thinking?
I mean, if you were Sequoia right now, I can be SBF, and you'd be talking, and I'd be on my other monitor right here playing a video game, going,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And they're like,
unbelievable,
gold.
unbelievable.
Yeah. I was reading a tally someone had done of, I think it was Grubhub or something, and they showed as Grubhub grows and as they charge freakishly more money for their services, their losses are mounting in ways that are just uncomparable. And same thing's happening with Uber and Lyft and all these other ride shares, is that, these systems are no longer subsidized by the VC capital. Now they're trying to run on their own, and they can't. And I honestly can't figure out how or why you don't have just some sort of system that you set up and then it facilitates from there, the scheduling and whatever. I can't imagine how top heavy the administration has to be of those share services. Like it blows my mind how much money is just being drained.
Yeah, well, we've been through this before. I mean, is this the .com era?
Yeah.
Redux.
Yeah. Well, there's mycaddy.com back in the day. Remember that one?
Yeah. There was, right.
Like you just call.
Well, no, my lackey.
My lackey is my lackey. Yeah, my lackey. Yeah.
mylackey.com. I know the two founders of my lackey.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was just you'd call them up and like, hey, I need someone to like scrub a floor, and they just send someone over and scrub a floor. And yeah.
I know. And so yeah. In fact, I used them a couple of times to come over and take some crap to the dump.
Yeah.
Or something, whatever. So, but yeah, and so it's a little bit like the .com Redux. I mean, it's like 2.0 or whatever it is, or 3.0 something.
Yeah.
But because just a lot of goofy stuff that not sustainable, business models that are not sustainable.
Oh, it's ridiculous. So during COVID, I sought Ron as a mentor. I had founded a company. We had the patent for biodegradable melt-blown fiber, like the stuff that could be used in masks and gowns and whatnot, but be with biodegradable plastic. And we were trying for months to just get a conversation with a VC, and no one wanted to talk to us. we'd write, we'd email, we'd call, and they'd be like, "Oh, it sounds like $1 billion idea." Like, I know. It's right now it's a $100 billion business and we could take it over. And they're like, "Yeah, but like your machines are really expensive, and if we invest in a tech company, it's just some guy in front of a computer for 6 months for $20,000." It got to a point where we just couldn't get anyone to talk. So so it blows my mind that if we just been like facemaskcrypto.com, they probably would have thrown piles of money at us.
well, yeah. Or now, if you you add AI to it.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Face mask AI. Yeah.
Face. Yeah. Well, I think it's fair to say that the VC behavior on Sand Hill Road is they're really like lemmings, right?
Yeah.
They're like lemmings, and said, "Oh my God, I got to be, hey, Sequoia's in that deal. We got a chance." Or Andreessen Horowitz, they're in the deal. Oh, it's got to be hot then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here's it's not quite how it works. I don't know.
I worked for Rivals.com way back in the day when they were a startup here in Seattle, and
right. Sure.
I saw firsthand. Yeah, I saw the firsthand just the ridiculousness of that bubble. And I was 19. I was making way too much money as a 19-year-old doing IT for them. I was his junior systems network engineer, and my job was to basically, if someone got hired, we find them their office or the cubicle or whatever. I would hook up their computer to the network, get it ghosted to whatever systems they were supposed to be on, and then they would be ready to go. And then, there are problems, I'd do that stuff. They would hire people, but the office wasn't big enough to have any more people in the office. And the internet wasn't good enough for everyone to work remotely because it's 1999, 2000, 2001. And so there are like 1,000 people on staff making a couple $100,000 a year who had nowhere to work. But we were all guaranteed 30-minute massages a week. We had tons of parties. And I would sit with my Palm Pilot in my office and just play Dope Wars on my phone because I had nothing to do, making way too much money. I think at the time I was making like $85 an hour, and I had $3 million in stock options that had not vested yet, so I couldn't do anything about it. And 3 months away from vesting, we show up to work and there's just padlocks on the door, and the company didn't exist anymore because they had spent it all on like cruises and company vacations and 30-minute massages for every employee. It was just a wild time. Like how much money just disappeared in that.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a problem when the massive amounts we were talking earlier about, the massive amounts of capital in the world, always looking for a place looking for a home, looking for a safe haven. And so a lot of these companies have been funded with way too much money.
Yeah.
And, so it's no internal rigor.
Yeah.
And then I think people began to have expectations about, all those fringe benefits that were.
Yeah. If you wanted the best engineer, you had to give them those massages. You had to make it look so much cooler than whatever. Real networks, I think we're whatever.
I think what's going on now. I mean, I think we, clearly there's some layoffs and it's interesting. There are layoffs in the face of we really have a full economy. I mean, we have in essence full employment. But it's we're going through a disruptive time. Some of us are old enough to remember inflation in 1979, 1980 when it hit 22%.
Yeah.
We're not, we got our hand in the tiller a little bit better now. I don't think we're going to see that kind of thing. Nothing quite like that, but we are suffering dislocation, and there are all these other things going on, and you and I see it. We go to downtown Seattle and we see storefronts that are empty, and that's something that you see all across the country.
Yeah.
And I think it'll take a while for the revitalization to happen.
Yeah.
I think the other thing we're going to see is, every young lawyer doesn't need to have his own office anymore. We're not going to see those high-rise filled with people in their own little offices. They don't need to have that same kind of space, a lot more remote work. And
commercial real estate definitely is a void right now. Read an article, San Francisco has 27 million square feet of office space that's empty, which is 30% of all their office buildings.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. And prior to COVID, it was a 4% vacancy. So, so there's going to be a lot of capital that just sort of disappears as a result of those offices.
I think one of the things I think a number of one of the things we have to do, we're short 3 or 4 million housing units in America, and I think that what we can do is we can enhance population in urban centers by repurposing some of these buildings. Now that's non-trivial, but I think there are great opportunities to repurpose some of these buildings that are never going to be office buildings again. But they can become residential, and as that happens, you're going to see more of those storefronts open back up and more vitality at street level.
I was just talking about this my last show. Calgary. So far in North America, the only one I've read that successfully really started doing that, and they had converted like 8 million square feet of office space into residences and brought a whole bunch of more people into their downtown core. And as a result, restaurants, clubs, mini marts, whatever are hustling and bustling. So in Seattle itself, just in building residential towers, in the last 6 years have built more space downtown than they had in the previous 50 for residences.
Wow, amazing. I didn't know that.
So it's, but then again, like Amazon, their campus is shrinking, and what's that going to mean?
No, it's it's a very exciting time.
Never a dull moment, that's for sure.
No, that's absolutely.
Anyone else in the chat here have anything cool to ask Ron before I let him enjoy his weekend? I
really appreciate the opportunity, Houston. Great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Great to see you.
Yeah,
man. Great to see you. And send Alexis a note and congratulate her.
I will
on Owen.
I know,
which is a big.
It's fantastic.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Okay. Jimbo Slice again. Once the glucose monitor gets FDA approval, what other analytes are you interested in exploring? Monitoring THC levels would be a game changer for public safety. It's like people driving under the influence of that. Well, having to do a blood test.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, that tetrahydrocannabinol, alcohol, etc. I mean, I could envision sensor technology that acts as kind of an ignition lock, if you will. In other words, you could sense that a person shouldn't be operating the vehicle because you've detected
they grab the steering wheel or whatever, and I
mean, I think that's all plausible. But I think that I mentioned earlier that we could ascertain the arrival of aspirin or Tylenol in your bloodstream if you ingested it. And I said that was a proxy for their therapeutics. I mentioned your grandmother. Did she take her meds? But it's also, has somebody taken an illicit substance or a substance that was impairing their capacity? So all of that is possible as well. Yeah.
Okay. In the work that I wanted to do, if I was going to actually get to do that PhD, would be using that tech sort of as an assay of rock. In mineralogy speaking. So rather than having to grind up the rock, put it into his mass spectrometer, figure out what the parts per million are, you could just point this thing at it and it would tell you, oh, there's this much gold parts per million in this vein here. That's sort of how I envisioned it.
Well, it's interesting. So, we've been talking about analytes, molecules in the human body, but our capacity to ascertain the presence of something, a molecule, it wouldn't necessarily have to be in the human body, right? I mean, Houston was obviously, you were historically interested in that.
Yeah, it's like a tricorder device.
No, that's like, here, let's check you out.
Boop, Lucky you live in Hawaii. The stock price has been dipping below $1. What's your thought on requirement for the average must be above $1 before being delisted?
You got 90 days. You got
90 days. Okay. And I'm sure you have some plan. I don't know.
Well, I think you make announcements over time, and we're subject to the macro forces of the market as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the market has generally been down. It's not been good, and so we're subject to that. And then we've had pressure from shorts. But as we make announcements, we continue to do what we're doing. I am optimistic that the stock price will elevate over time. It should.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Let me just do a quick scroll, see if there's anything other big questions folks have for us. There's people talking about banks in here, all sorts of banks, looks like all sorts of regional banks are just getting hammered at the moment. I think that's which bank will we sacrifice to the gods next? Yeah. All right. Well, cool. That was fun. All right. Thank you, Ron.
Well, thank you, Houston. A real pleasure, and look forward to seeing you around town, as they say. And
one of these days, I do want to go to Pacific Raceways. I have never made it over there. And,
we'll go. Yeah, we go out there and do the gearhead thing.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, man.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you, Ron.
so much.
See ya.
All the best. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. So, everybody, now the 40-minute clock begins until my video disappears. So we got 40 minutes of show left. I want to thank Ron for jumping in here and taking his time to chat with us about tech and investment and where things are going. It's nice. I like being able to have somebody on the show. I like conversations, and it's a nice break for me squinting at a screen and then just rambling. But that's what we're gonna do next is 40 minutes of me squinting at a screen and rambling. Right, Cat? The dog has been real good. She has not tried to bother the cat at all. She's only stared at me once that the cat's been on her bed the whole time. Okay. All right. Might as well start at the top. Jason Blackwell. Hey, Houston. You talk about needing hobbies. I have a new one. Drag racing, except running in high heels really hurts. You ever seen the high heel, the fastest person high heels thing? They can run like a 10-second 100 meters in high heels. It's crazy. They can do it in Australia. So any Australians that happen to be awake right now, they can let us know what's going on with that. Oh, hey, buddy. How are you? Don Caesar Shadem, thanks for all the great interviews you bring us. Well, thank you, Don. And there was another super chat that I missed. Jimmy D, Vic's rub skin weasel on Spy's no zone today. Monday crash. It was interesting. Like they stopped trading. Oh, there it is. There's the fight. She got her bed back. Monkey, leave the cat alone. Take your bed. Take the victory. Take the victory, monkey. Come on. So pre-market, Silicon Valley Bank SVB went from $30 to $104 at like 6:30 a.m. or whatever, and then they just said no trading today. So it screened back up, got seized by the FDIC, and so whoever bought shares, I think, is now bag holding essentially a pink sheet Q stock. Absolutely bonkers. So trying to piece together sort of what happened is it sounds like they had a whole bunch of fixed term debt or lending that they did. So they're holding these bonds and they're fixed, low interest rate, fixed for a long period of time. And because their interest rate is below that of inflation, no one wants them, right? Because why would you buy debt that has a 1% return when you can buy debt that has a 4 to 7% return right now? Like, so the value of that 1% return just vaporized, and something must have come due where they needed some cash. So they sold $1.8 billion of those securities at what sounds like a pretty profound loss, made the announcement, all the VCs and rich people started pulling their money out as fast as they can. Stock price went from $360 down to $60 in one day. And that was that. Poof. 97% of their holdings are in accounts that have more than $250,000 in it. So they're only insured up to $250,000. Anything after that, nothing. They have, the FDIC has asked people who have savings and checking accounts with Silicon Valley Bank to notify them, and they're going to try to get as much of the money back as they can. But again, the insurance only works up to $250K, which is, we've discussed this in the show before, that if you're going to have more than $250,000 in a bank, you should talk to the private banker, see what type of products they have where they can, make a dozen, 100, whatever accounts that all have $250K limits that all feed into one main account. That way you can get insurance across all of them. So I think we're seeing that a lot of folks might get burned really hard on this. I was reading that Silicon Valley Bank is pretty much the only bank that allows people who live in India the ability to do venture capital investment in the US, because you don't have to have a social security number to become a member of their bank or customer of their bank. And so there's probably a lot of South Asians in India right now who perhaps were doing a lot of investments in US venture capital companies and tech companies that now, poof, that capitals might be gone. That's rough. It sounds pretty gnarly to me. I don't, and there's it sounds like there's a lot of banks who've invested in the similar long-term debt stuff that Silicon Valley has, and that this contagion is now like spreading to a lot of these other regional banks that are in similar situations. Yeah, but they stopped trading this morning before open. They're like, nope, not going to trade. FDIC seized. And all the other banks kind of, trade sideways for the day, which I found really interesting, because if there's a contagion going on and this bank just got clobbered in one day from that contagion, and a bunch of other regional banks may be subject to it, while the sideways trading, it seems to me that, they're just as doomed as everyone else. Andrew Taintertot. Not sure you saw my comment in the last video, but the discussion with no down pay bad credit loans, they write them in hopes the person defaults, they collect the PMI and still get to sell the house. This lets them double down the value of the home, all the while screwing over the insurance companies. I don't put this kind of crap past them anymore. Also, this is Fudge Your Teats Off. I just had to change my name for satire purposes. Okay. All right. Fudge Your Teats Off's here. Tainter Tot. I love that. I mean, it's a great way to pick up property for cheap, right? And I don't know. You get them to pay off a huge chunk of it, so there's some equity, and then seize a sucker and sell it again at fair market value and collect money more. So seems like as good a plan as any. Someone had pointed out that Fidelity still has not sent out the majority of their the 1099s. I haven't gotten mine. They have until Wednesday? 15th. Is that Wednesday? Come on, dates. Yes, Wednesday the 15th. Excuse me. Seriously, every time I do a show, I have a meal like right before come on, and then I'm a hiccupy burpy monster. And I'm glad Ron was doing most talking, because I think I was just burping the entire time. So they have until the 15th to send us our 1099s. And the fact they haven't yet is concerning to the SEC. So they've asked folks to call 202-551-6500. It's a special department in the SEC, and they're requesting people to contact them about not having received their tax documents yet. Because if it doesn't go out by the 15th, it is a giant violation by Fidelity. I think that Fidelity's had a hard time, especially with MMTLP people, figuring out how to write this. And the thing is, there should not be a problem. They've made it a problem, and there goes a cat. They made it a problem by essentially attributing a wrong value to the MMTLP or next bridge, and by changing it to short-term capital gains, which is they didn't have to do any of that. All I do is like, oh, you bought the security at this price X number of months or years ago. It's still there. Just change names. That's all I had to do. But they seem to have made it hard on themselves and are screwing over all their customers. So I don't know who's making these decisions, but oops. Okay. Wheat Wild can't watch us. Bummer. Wheat Wild's got quite a bit of KnowLabs too. But he's, all the way over in Israel. Bum, bum, bum. Jimmy D, holy hell, emergency closed Fed meeting Monday 11:30. Which bank will we sacrifice to the gods? That is a good question, because the last time they did one of these emergency meetings, they invited everybody except Bear Stearns. And basically they discussed how they were going to murder Bear Stearns and who was going to take on their liabilities and assets. And Jamie Dimon of Chase was like, I'll take on their assets. Government, you take on their liabilities. And the government and the Fed was like, sounds good to me. And that's what happened. That week, they just murdered them. Their stock vaporized into nothing. And the entire time, Jim Cramer was like, Bear Stearns is strong as hell. And he just announced today that JP Morgan is a fortress. So who's got their money on JP Morgan? 8 days ago, he said SVB was one of his top 10 hottest performing stocks. So Kramer curse, inverse curse, seems to be playing just right here. So JP Morgan. Yeah. Bank contagion confirmed. First name, last name, I'm on mobile. How do I reply to chat without typing the person's name? I have no idea. I can't help you with that. Okay. Many over Mayo emergency Fed meeting has happening as we speak and stretching over the weekend, and they'll release results if they want to Monday. I wouldn't doubt if there's lots of talk going on. It's $200 billion in assets under management, 16th or 19th largest bank, depending on who you talk to. It's a pretty significant chunk of money to essentially vaporize. Who's going to take on those liabilities of all that debt no one wants? And who is going to take on the customers and the bank branches and all those things? FDIC's, they're usually pretty good at getting someone like, you take on all this good stuff, we'll ship off the bad stuff over here. And banks usually like taking on the good stuff and not the bad stuff if they've got to do that stuff. So if someone comes along and agrees to take on the customers and all that stuff for Silicon Valley Bank, then I think the customer accounts, they don't have to worry. But if no one wants to come along and take it on, then the customer accounts, they may have to worry. You used to need cheap treats for Chalupa, not just monkey butt. I have cat treats. This is what happens when I give the cat treats. Here, have some treats. And he looks at it and he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, eat it. And he looks at it and he goes, eh. So it has never really worked. I try to feed him cheese or stuff. He's like, what? This isn't fish flavored dry cat food. I don't know how to do this. So, if it's not like a mouse that's moving or dried cat food, he really has no interest. Okay. Michael O'Hara, what are you going to do for Valentine's Day 2046? If you guys had not read the news, there's an asteroid that's been identified that has a 1 in 400 chance of smacking into the Earth on Valentine's Day 2046. It's about 40 to 50 meters across, which is similar to the same size of the asteroid that hit Meteor Crater in Arizona, made Meteor Crater in Arizona. It's not an Earth killer. It is definitely a city destroyer and could create some good waves if it hit an ocean. But the one that hit Meteor Crater was equivalent of about a 10 megaton nuclear explosion. So it would definitely wipe out a city. We can, let's see here. I can do scene. I can do Google Earth. Google Earth. We can go to Meteor Crater. We've been Meteor Crater several times here. So I'm gonna leave. I was pointing Bainbridge stuff out to a roommate here. Let's do. Come on, give me that. Okay, let's go to Arizona. Wow. Winslow. Close to Winslow. Last time I went to looking for it, it was closer to Winslow than I remembered. And I should be able to see it from space. Where are you? Where are you, son of a gun? You're like right in here. You're right in here. I know it. I know it. Cat, if you step on the keyboard, I'm going to murder you. Come here. Ugh. Okay. Cat, you bastard. Okay. Ugh. All right. Where'd you go, Meteor Crater? God, I'm going to type it in again and then realize that I was right next to it and not seeing it. There it is. All right. There's Meteor Crater. I think it's about a mile across, if I remember correctly. 0.72, so 3/4 of a mile across. It's a decent sized crater. Some of the bigger craters, the Tonopah bombing range, are probably about that size. But imagine, let's look at a major city. What's 3/4 of a mile across in, say, Los Angeles? Because that's close. Okay, so we can go down to LA. We can go down to downtown LA here. And this one down, that's Fashion District. Here we go. So a hole in downtown LA is 3/4 miles across. We'll basically take out most of downtown LA. So that is what we're looking at for what's gone. So, and then you measure the outfall. There'd be a blast wave that would come out that would absolutely just destroy. Be pretty impressive. The good thing is that by, say, 2046, we may have colonies on the moon, start other intra-solar system travel. And if an asteroid wanted to come along and kill us, 23 years from now, we might be able to go up to it and go, meh. And depending on what it's made of, we might mine the heck out of it. Nice little freebie of some cool metals. I used to have a Sony Erickson cell phone. Ron did not have anything to do with Erickson Mobile, but they do share a name. All right. Okay. George 777. What happened to Bed Bath & Beyond before market closing? All of a sudden up on the day, shorts covering. I did not see that at closing. Let us. Where was it at the end of the day? Come on, let's do a quick gander on the cell phone here. Ooh, it did go up right at the end of the day, didn't it? Yeah, quite a bit. It had been down. How low? Had been down as low as 7, almost 8%, and finished up 9% today. Another 6 after hours. So here's what I think is that the bullet swaps, which I honestly, I barely understand how bullet swaps work. I just know that these are basically debt that's trading around like a hot potato. And as it trades around, the music stops at some point. And then I think a whole bunch of the music is stopping this month. on debt that holds Bed Bath & Beyond shorts. And there's going to have to be a lot of covering on it. My personal feeling, like my gut, there's none of this analytics, this is all just like my belly going urgly gurgly, is that Carl Icahn and Ryan Cohen have something brewing with Bed Bath & Beyond that they seem to plan to hit as these bullet swaps expire, forcing them to cover while Ryan Cohen and Icahn drive up the price by buying a whole bunch of the company. And so I'm happy right now sitting on my calls for April 21st for Bed Bath & Beyond. I think there's a good chance they're going to go puny pop. And, so I'm just going to sit on them and just, wait. But, the SEC and Credit Suisse are in discussions about Credit Suisse basically getting rid of a whole bunch of their really, really bad debt and how they're going to do it. They're telling them basically, get out of the mortgage-backed securities market. Do not touch it. Get the hell out. And Credit Suisse is like, we're getting out of the mortgage-backed securities market. They have so much debt left over from Archegos and trying to cover naked shorts made by Archegos that it's just eating away at them. It's destroying everything they have. And it's like compounding, like, 2 years ago, like, man, we have like $5 billion we can't handle. And that $5 billion is now like $10 billion or 20 or 100. And it's just spiraled out of their control. And this is the type of stuff that these banks, once they saw what happened with Archegos and Credit Suisse and Goldman Sachs and Nomura and whoever else they happened to have taken margin with, they're terrified of margin calling. So, if you're terrified of doing a margin call because they don't have enough assets to cover their debt, which means you are now responsible for the debt and you don't have enough assets to cover their debt because you did a 30-to-1 margin for them. And that 30-to-1 margin has now exploded to 500-to-1 margin or something ridiculous. And that's why you're margin calling them. You aren't going to want to admit it. You're just going to, cover your ears, close your eyes, and go la, 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 and hope that, time marches on and people forget about you. But at some point, someone's going to want their money. And at that point, a dominoes, man. That's the way I see it. Lucy in the Sky of Diamonds. WAL, Western Alliance Bank, dropped to $30, then back up to $49. It was at $76. I've known the CEO for 40 years. He's a great guy, smart, and will come back. They do healthcare regarding CRE loans. Great bank. It's probably one of those regional banks that the regional banks just in general are going to get hit because everyone's going to assume they're all in bad shape. So my guess is they're just getting swept up in the mayhem. Andrew Taintot. I got a 63 vet I'm almost finished with. Should be on the road by May. Sexy. My friend Angie's dating a guy who's got a 67 66 C2 convertible, and that metallic blue, just gorgeous. Bum, bum. SJ. Oh, I missed this question, SJ. I'm sorry to give Ron. I know someone who goes to radiotherapy, I think, where they project radio waves into the body to help with health issues. Is this a thing or pseudoscience? I would check to see if it's FDA approved or if it's listed as a wellness device. If it's a wellness device, I wouldn't trust it. I know that there's a lot of sort of pseudoscience scammers that will do laser treatment. And they put lasers in your body to get rid of illness or whatever. And it's just the lasers you might see at the checkout counter at the grocery store that checks your UPC label. It's not doing anything. It's just, let's just put some red on you and it's going to cure your cancer. Those things are wellness devices and they're not They're not actually FDA approved. So, and there's also like FDA registered, which is different, which is basically saying like, I have filed paperwork with you to tell you I have a device. The FDA goes, cool. And that's different also than like an FDA approved therapeutic device. Julianne, also people with bad circulation in their hands are hard to pick up with pulse oximeters. Yeah, so like diabetics in general have poor circulation in their fingers and toes. So that would be bad. And people who have COVID oftentimes have circulation problems as well. So there does need to be better ways. Cat, quit bumping the thing. Let the dog have her moment. You got to sit there for an hour. Right? Nope. There it goes. Ready? There it is. There it is. Come on, cat. All right. You are not a union cameraman. You're not allowed to touch that. Cat, if you not crap on the floor, I'm going to throw you like a football. Just chill out. Ow! Don't bite me. Okay, there's a question to ask Ron. Sorry, scrolling through these right now. Dustin Wright, isn't this guy's with the glucose situation anyway in direct competition with Houston's brother working at Acme parent company, who is trying to get their glucose market? They are in direct competition in this regard. It's weird that I know two people working on the same type of thing, but Ron's tech is amazing. It is like, again, I don't feel comfortable. Ron explains sort of the basics of it, that it uses radio frequencies to identify things, but it is really cool. Like, you can point it at anything as long as you have the antenna tuned. It can tell you exactly what's in there. It's really incredible technology. Oh, and Ron's just thanking me. Thank you, Ron. There we go. Okay. SS Minnow Johnson, how many dollars is Ron worth? A lot. More than anyone in this chat. I can tell you that much right now. He's got a Wikipedia page, so you can read it and see. You can try to do your estimates. Okay. Sorry, this thing always. Avocados made it a little late. That's all right. You had dinner with a neighbor. You're forgiven. People are allowed to eat. And Michael O'Hara wants to know how I'm going to divert the asteroid. I think if any asteroid, especially if it's an iron nickel asteroid, it's going to pass near the Earth, it should be the goal of humanity from that point forward to either capture that thing, probably not around the Earth's orbit, maybe around the moon's orbit or something, so we can mine it. Or, by then we have like crazy robots and stuff. We stick a little robot colony on that asteroid as it passes by, and it goes yum 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 yum. It starts eating up all the ore and maybe processing it, or at least preparing it to get processed. And the next time it sweeps by the Earth, the next number of years, you just scoop it all up and get a whole bunch of money out of it. All right, Don Caesar Shade, I'm Jester Jackson. If you're on Houston's Reddit, I'm going to post tomorrow a whole bunch of tickers for making money when everything goes down. It's a whole bunch of inverse ETFs and companies that do repos and stuff like I don't know, moving companies, stuff that does well, booze. Julianne, rest in peace, JB Morgan. Talvin's has not gotten his tax form. Oh, I forgot to remind Leo B. I don't see you in the chat right now, but Leo B, you won the raffle for the poster or t-shirt. So send me a message either via Twitter or Reddit, and we'll figure out how to get you your t-shirt or poster for our Charity Tuesday winnings. Congratulations, Leo B. I saw Talvin's name there, and Talvin is who won the last raffle we had. So that reminded me, Leo B, contact me. You won. You're a winner. Enjoy it. I will find out Ron's net worth. Richard K. Queen Elizabeth died waiting for FINRA to fix MMTLP. Oat Milk Man, Houston, have you ever read anything Richard White? It's mostly nonfiction, but some of the stuff's interesting. If I have, I don't remember reading anything from Ron White. Richard White. Richard White. What has he written? What have I recognize? Trying history at Stanford. Okay, not the actor, the historian. Here we go. What books have you written? Land use, roots and discrepancy, middle ground, misfortune, frontier in American culture, remembering anagram, corporation corruption, modern lobby, railroaded, transcontinents, public which stands. No, I've never read any of these. Who Killed Jane Stansford? But some of the titles look like something I would love, especially the railroaded one. No, Oat Milk Man, I have not read those. Cat, quit being weird. No, but they look interesting. We got Albert Corey Prize, Parkman Prize, Western Heritage Award, MacArthur Foundation, Genius Grant. Seems like somebody worth it. Knucklehead, Problem Solver, fantastic. We got memberships. I forget. Oh, there's somebody else that did one too. Leave GS 3A 6H6 Ants Huff. Goodness gracious, that is one hell of a mouthful. That's like the random number password for all of your profiles, isn't it? Thank you. Problem solvers. Yes. I forgot to do that thing where I tell you to become a member on my channel. Support Houston, answer people's questions 10 hours a day online. It's very time consuming. And I appreciate people who join to help support me doing these shows and answering questions on Reddit and Twitter and DMs, and it's a lot of my day is spent doing that. So I appreciate people who have joined and become members. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, my dad's trying to call me. One sec. Okay. Because I'm about to get kicked off my own show anyway, because I'm using Zoom at the moment to do the video because my computer only let me do video for one app at a time. And Zoom is going to kick me off in, I don't know, 5 minutes probably. Let's see here. Is there a timer up there? There's no timer, but soon. Okay. Michael Harrow, do you think hedgies, brokers, or regulators are going to whistleblow to save their own skins? Oh, hell yes. If you know your company is going down, right? Like there's some malfeasance going on. They're hiding, cooking the books, whatever. Your best bet is to go to the SEC, file for whistleblower status, tell them exactly what's going on, because they will give you millions of dollars as a reward when they fine that company or arrest people or whatever. It's a great way to like soften the blow, and they never announce who you are. So you can still get a job elsewhere in the financial industry because you aren't seen as like the enemy. Or you don't have to because they give you like $7 million or whatever the fine reward is. You don't do anything. Brian Strange, ISDA Phase 6 6-month contract expired this week. Probably nothing though. I think there's quite a few things lined up there. Avocados, does Shlupa like catnip? He does. We had a giant, just a Tupperware container full of catnip that he had destroyed. I would, give it here and there. And when Scott was living with us, Scott would just like dump it on the cat's head and watch the cat just freak out. So it went through it in a hurry. So yeah, we've all cats love catnip, right, buddy? Yeah. Sorry, it's probably my father messaging me back again. Oh, that's actually my brother messaging me. Okay. Call me Dragon. Houston, I know you from following Meta. How did you end up talking about everything? Renaissance, myself, everything connects. I read a lot. Read constantly. I retain information pretty well, even if I do forget names a lot. And I mean, I've also taken a lot of courses and taught a lot of courses in a whole bunch of different subjects. So I've got degrees in geography, geology, astrophysics, space studies, working on one in history right now. I've got 5 minors. I've taught, every level of math from remedial math through calculus. I've taught astronomy, geology, biology, evolution, environmental science, chemistry of food, physics of sound, physics of motion, logic. I've had to deep dive into quite a few things to be able to teach people stuff, and I don't know, it's just I like learning and I like explaining. So there you go. That's where I am. Iggy Limon, Troop has a right to speak with his union rep before you fire him. Tamis Lushi, we should look into way pharmas will be in play for the new male contraceptive. Big bucks there. Will men use it though? I don't know if they will. I think the best bet for dudes is just give everybody a vasectomy. Just give them a vasectomy and I don't know, make them solve Mensa puzzles if they want it reversed. Because if I were a woman, I would not trust a man to take a pill every day. Because you can't trust a dude to wear a condom half the time. I don't know if I'd trust a dude to take a pill. I know men. Men are slime usually, and usually are they're lazy, or they like rely on some lady to like, honey, take your heart medicine, you're gonna die. And they go, oh yeah. I would not trust a man to take a birth control pill because the ramifications for them are so esoteric and not like they don't have to carry something in their body for 9 months and then like pee constantly. They just have to be surprised when they get hit with like paternity suits and they go, what? I didn't know this was a consequence, because that's how human men operate. Knucklehead, Houston, new headphones. Good luck. Oh yeah, I'm still wearing headphones. I forgot. I don't have Ron on the line with me. I don't need to have headphones on. And as a result, I'm probably talking louder than I normally would. But here we are. Okay, so it sounds really weird now that I can hear myself and don't have the giant headphones on my head. Whew. Okay. Everything is so loud, kitty. So loud, monkey dog. You know what? this camera is about to go away, we might as well make a happy monkey dog, right? Yeah, let's make a happy monkey dog. Happy monkey dog. Happy monkey dog. Oh boy. Best time of the day. Time we get to have some nature, okay? Alright, want to get in the camera again? I like it when you get in the camera. You have to get up here. Get right there. Such a great perspective. I want to get on my lap and then do this camera. One more? Yeah? Alright, get in the camera. Get right there. Right. Brings me so much joy. Michael O'Hara, what would happen if Ron points at his device your old can of spam? My guess is it would say perfectly good spam. Because it's coated in spam jelly and sealed and nothing can get there. Knucklehead, nah man, thank you long-time listener. You make the LA traffic commute every day much more tolerable. Well, thank you for listening while you're in traffic, and hopefully I'm soothing you from screaming and yelling at somebody, not using their blinker and pulling across 5 lanes of traffic to make an exit. Michael Brown, Houston, where did the money that we use to pay for MMTLP shares go? Do the brokers get that? Does it go to NextBridge? Who gets it when it allegedly went to zero? Whoever sold you the share has the money. So that's who has it. You know, if I sell a share, there you go. I take your money. It's mine now. If I sell a share doesn't exist, I still take your money and it's mine now. So whoever sold you the share has the money. So when it went to zero means you got zero. They have your money and the video just disappeared. So that's a good spot to leave. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys Monday. I'm going up to Whistler Monday, so we'll be doing a nighttime show, Houston After Dark, probably from Whistler, if the laptop and everything wants to work. I'll see you guys then. I want you to enjoy your weekend. I want to thank again Ron Erickson of KnowLabs for stopping by, chit-chatting with us, and having a great conversation. I'll probably do a Twitch stream for GeoGuessr. If you guys like chilling, relaxing, and having me ramble off numbers of French highways, we'll do that as well. All right, everybody, take care, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the flip side.